Daredevil Born Again has now wrapped up all 9 episodes, and I'm definitely disappointed by the entire show's run. So let's talk about it. Now for a quick recap. Episode 1 and 2, I reviewed it back when those premiered. I enjoyed it, but it didn't feel like Netflix, and I was heavily disappointed by the first 2 episodes. Are my thoughts the same? Let's talk about it. And for starters, I feel like the show kicked into gear at episode 3. The moment I stopped reviewing the show, because episode 3 was the lawyer stuff, and I feel like what's missing from season 2 and 3 of the original Daredevil show are the lawyer scenes. We do get that in season 2, but it's missing in season 3. And season 1 was so special to me because of that lawyer stuff, and it feels street level because of it. And I'm glad Born Again decided to bring that lawyer stuff back, and I feel like the main story started kicking in episode 3. And to this day, it's still one of my favorite episodes of this entire season. Because I feel like that's exactly where I started loving the show and loving what they were doing. And all the character work too. Daredevil is great because of just the character development. Those are the best moments in the entire show. And I'm glad that this show continued to bring that out. Because we got storylines with Fisk, Vanessa, Adam, even with Matt and stuff becoming Daredevil again. We all have these different character moments in here and all these different character arcs to make it special. And it brings back what I liked about the original show and still has it in here. And I also like just the little MCU references that we had. In episode 5, referencing Ms. Marvel. I think in episode 6, they referenced Secret Invasion. So I just like all these little references that they have just to connect to the larger universe. It's not trying to connect to the larger universe, but just the little connections just kind of tell us, this is part of the MCU, but we're not going to connect it to the multiverse or anything. And I like just those sudden nods. And the violence is brutal in here, which I absolutely love. I love all the gore that was shown, especially in the last episode where we got the Punisher. More on that later. But that's when the gore really started coming into play. And I loved it. I loved that we're actually getting a lot more gore in Daredevil. Not that the original show was missing any of that. It's just with the gore, it feels like something else, and I love it more with the gore. I also love all the build-up to Matt becoming Daredevil again. I know a lot of people don't like it, but it was part of his character arc and his journey and part of the story, and I just love that entire story that they took of Foggy dying, and Matt just slowly learning that he has to become Daredevil again. And I really love that storyline that they did. I love the slowly building tension to when he becomes Daredevil again, and once he finally becomes Daredevil, it feels like it's paying off a moment that's been building up to, which it has, and I appreciate the build up to it. And I just loved how they were really stretching out the stories and the character arcs just to flesh it all out. Now, not counting episode 3, episodes 2 to 7 feel like something else. It's missing something. I was just never able to figure out what it was missing, but then episode 8 and 9 came, and that's when the new showrunners actually started working on the show, because everything else was still from the previous script that they have. But episode 8 and 9 was where the changes started coming into play. And you can tell, because episode 9 is one of my favorite episodes of the show. Followed by episode 3, of course, because I love the lawyer stuff. Episode 8 was like, hey, this is what the story was building up to. This is everything great. And episode 9 just continued all of that out. Because it just feels like new showrunners came in, and that's exactly what episodes 8 and 9 feel like. Episode 8 was exactly what I wanted from this entire show. And I hope we get more of that in season 2. And can I just say this? Charlie Cox needs an award for his portrayal in this series. Especially in episode 8. He knows how to act. He knows how to do those emotional moments. He knows how to do those rage moments. The Academies, I'm not saying the Oscars, but at least some sort of Academy needs to appreciate him for his acting in this show. Because he deserves it. He's been playing Daredevil for so long. He matches the role of Daredevil. And just because it's a comic book show does not mean it does not deserve an Oscar, because his acting in here is phenomenal. And the Punisher was easily the best part of this show. We don't get a lot of him, it's mainly the last episode, but the last episode just proved this is the Punisher that you know. You get the gore with him, and you get the rage that Punisher has, and the last episode just brought everything I loved about the Punisher character back. Proving my point of before in my episode 1 and 2 review of it's just nice to see these characters back again, and we get to see that with the Punisher. There's a lot of moments I absolutely loved with this season, like the story. I love the main overarching story that they have with this season, and I loved all the character moments that they have in here too, and it just makes me excited for season 2. But, like I said in the intro, and probably the thumbnail, I feel disappointed. I feel like the show's been missing something and I wanted more out of it. First, let's start off with a little nitpick. The CGI on Daredevil still does not look great. When he's swinging through the streets of New York City, it looks completely off. I had this problem with episode 1, and it remained. It did look better in the finale though, but that's probably because he wasn't swinging through New York. The CGI in green screen is very distracting compared to what the practical effects brought for the original show. And the show just didn't feel the same without Foggy and Karen in it. We get introductions to new characters, but they're not Foggy and Karen. And the show didn't really feel the same. Now granted, in the finale, we see Karen at the end, so she might be more relevant in season 2, but for season 1, she was missing most of it, so the show didn't really feel the same without her in there. And the Muse story just felt pointless by the end of it. It felt like we were building out this entire storyline for absolutely no reason, because I feel like Mew was just completely wasted. He basically was introduced, Daredevil fought him, and then the next episode Muse died. It did help build out Matt's character arc and have him become Daredevil again, but just for the villain himself, he wasn't well written, and the storyline just felt pointless by the end of it, except for the character arcs in there. Now my main problem, the show feels rushed. I don't know what about it, but it just feels rushed. Some storyline moments, we're fleshing out like these character arcs, we're fleshing all that out, but then when we get to the actual big plot points moments, it kind of feels rushed. I don't know if that's just me, but I feel that way. I feel like when we actually got to the important stuff that we actually need to focus on, the main story, that's when it felt rushed. Character moments, those are all great. Overarching story, I feel like was fine too. But I feel like most of the season was just a bunch of subplots, and the main overarching story was a bit rushed because we spent most of the runtime on just these subplots that are only important for character arcs. If this was Netflix, none of that would be the problem, which is hard reviewing the show because Netflix exists. That show is a 10 out of 10 show. So when you have this show not really matching the same heights of that Netflix show, it's kind of like gonna come off as a disappointment. And like I said, it feels like something's missing. Something from that Netflix show is not brought over into this show, but I cannot pinpoint what it is. It could be a problem that I mentioned before, or it couldn't be. But there's something missing. I don't know what it is. Something that was in the Netflix show that is not in here, so it just doesn't feel the same without it. And I was expecting so much more from this show, especially coming off of Netflix. Netflix is just like the perfect Daredevil show. When we get to Born Again, it just doesn't match the same heights of that show, so automatically you're disappointed by it, and I wanted more once this season ended. Once episode 9 ended, I was like, okay, this main overarching story, the entire season, didn't feel right. The show had its moments. I love certain episodes in here. I love storylines. I love character arcs. But something's missing. Anyways, if you like this video, maybe leave those on the side of this too. Like, subscribe, and see you guys next time. Goodbye.